thank you all for coming, and this is the debrief from a pretty whirlwind process over the past 3 days here in Hillsdale. As we go through the way that today will go, I'm going to do my best to keep it nice and tight and talk for about an hour. There are a couple things that I'd like to do. I'd like to start off by sharing what I heard and some of the things that I drew from that. And then from that, I would like to talk briefly about the next part of the process and what the next steps might look like. And then from there, I want to move into recommendations. And I just want to couch the recommendations on the idea that literally everything that you will see was created from like last night at 10 o'clock p.m. on. So it is truly a cursory concept, but it helps to illustrate and lay the foundation for connected communication here in the community, and I think it'll give us plenty to talk about today. So the first thing that I want to kick off on was this simple idea of what we heard. I spent all day on Monday in meetings, and the meetings during the day were very well attended. I was actually really pleased. Typically with meetings like that, we went an approach where we gave a lot of flexibility, and sometimes in communities flexibility is really good and garners good attendance, and sometimes flexibility means everybody says, oh, well, somebody else will do it, and then the attendance is really poor. I was very pleased both with the numbers and the quality of the content. Our public meeting on Monday night was not attended by huge masses, but we had a really good in-depth conversation with the few that did show up. Anytime you have an evening after dark meeting at City Hall on the day that it snowed, you can't exactly expect that you're going to have hundreds come out to that. But I was able to get a really good spectrum of thought from citizens and folks that are invested in the community over the course of Monday. There were several attributes that we heard over and over again. They really liked the community. You have some of that top level frustration of living in a place and being frustrated by things. Luckily, we didn't have to go too deep into road conditions. We covered that very well in our first meeting, and honestly, roads really didn't come up very much after that first meeting with our key stakeholders. So I think that the fact is the primary issues that are plaguing the community are issues that people pretty well understand. There also were some very big factors that I tried to get my arms wrapped around. And there were factors that, I'm not going to call them contradictions per se, but one of the big glaring numbers here was you have low crime rate, you have high quality schools, but for all intents and purposes, you have a high percentage of residents who are either living in poverty or not particularly affluent. When you look at your demographic dynamics and your breakdowns in your demographics, you're trending tremendously poorer here than the state average. You're tremendously poorer in the city of Hillsdale than the county average. What was interesting to me was, although we know that you have this broad socioeconomic spectrum, the typical outcomes that are affected by a high percentage of low-income residents don't seem to have affected Hillsdale the way that they affect other communities. So typically when you have a lot of poorer people, you have more crimes. Typically when you have a lot of poorer people, they pass on a decreased sense of value on education, and therefore you have schools that perform poorly. So I think it was very, very intriguing to me that those trends were not connected here in Hillsdale the same way that they're connected to other communities. Now, we could spend weeks digging into the dynamics and trying to figure out exactly what every stat comes from, and were there any weird dynamics that trended workforce participation numbers or things like that. But I had to keep myself from digging into it too deep and just realize that there's some very simple factors that connect some of those dots. You're a community with traditional values and you love being connected to one another. Chances are, if we were to go through and look, you're a community that probably has a higher percentage of homes that still have a stay-at-home parent. That stay-at-home parent ratio is going to directly affect your workforce participation and is going to directly affect overall household income. But it's also going to create good students, create good citizens, and a safer environment. So a lot of times we use terms like workforce participation, and when someone says you have a high percentage of potential workers who have elected to leave the workforce, I think a lot of people automatically say, oh, we got a lot of people with disability. But it might not actually be that that's how all those breakdowns take place. So it was a very interesting dynamic where some of the things that might have been indicators of potential problem might actually also be indicators of the longevity of the quality of life of the community. Does that make sense? So that was very, very interesting for me to dig into. I think as I go through, I'm gonna be able to talk more as I go through my recommendations about some of the other assets and values. But as we move forward in this process, I think one of the other dynamics that I heard and experienced loud and clear, and I think this is an interesting segue into what the next process should look like. You have a dynamic where you are Hillsdale, Michigan. You are the county seat of Hillsdale County and the home of Hillsdale College, and lots of other things that say Hillsdale. So from a branding perspective, there are a lot of organizations and entities that are sharing the same identity. So anything that we do moving forward, we need to understand that those recommendations should create a platform for inclusion and should create an expandable set of tools that allow additional organizations and groups throughout the greater community to echo each other's messages if they elect to do so. And when I return in January, one of the primary goals of that return visit will be able to work directly with some of those key community partner organizations and create tools for them so that this truly can be a chorus instead of a solo, if that makes sense. So that's one of the things we're really excited about. We had groups that participated in the input sessions. Then we also had the opportunity for me to meet one-on-one. I talked one-on-one with the foundation. I went by the chamber and talked with them, and glad to have Rachel here with us today. Went by the EDP on the county level and talked with Sue. So I was able to talk with a lot of those regional partners who, even though their scope might be a little bit larger, they're still telling the Hillsdale story. So I'm pretty excited about the potential that can come out of a true system that allows these organizations to experience benefits. So although so many of these services are being granted to the city of Hillsdale, we got to remember what this thing is called, rising tide. This is an opportunity for these investments to truly rise all boats. And we're going to see if we can use this branding initiative to help organizations throughout the county to be able to be more efficient in communication as well. So from that, I want to jump into the fun stuff, shall we say. I have a very interesting approach when it comes to branding, and I like to, one of the greatest compliments anybody ever gave me was, I gave a brand presentation, and a woman in the audience said to me, "You made that sound unbelievably scientific. I thought you were going to show me a logo, and I was going to say, that's pretty, or that's ugly, and that was the end of the conversation. And she said, you actually made me understand why you made the decisions that you did. And strategy is key to this branding effort. So I believe that a branding toolbox for a community like this is typically made up of 4 main elements or areas of focus: a uniform color palette, typefaces, messaging, and graphics. So we're going to go through each of those one by one. Now, I made a big decision, and it was one of the first decisions that I made here in Hillsdale. When you are the home of a college, colleges understand branding very, very well. And they also understand that just like a community operates, a college operates not with a single brand, but with a collection of brands that allow them to tell the stories that they want to tell. Hillsdale College has an academic brand and an athletic brand. In that same vein, our community needs to have organizational brands and a destination brand. And we're going to continue to talk about that, but one of the biggest things that I feel is important for this city, this county, and this region is Hillsdale College owns Hillsdale Blue. And the moment that you co-opt that color as your primary color, you make it very difficult for people outside of the loop to understand who owns what. So I'm actually recommending that the community adopts a different primary color than the blue. Even though the schools use blue, I absolutely get that, but let's select a nice set of greens, something that can be yours, something that you can own. There's already some cross-correlation when you look at other things that have been done. The Chamber of Commerce has adopted green for their look and feel. The county government has adopted a mixture of blue and green on theirs, and your current seal features hills and trees. So there is nothing rocket science about picking a green. But the big overarching message there is, by using a consistent green, green can now denote city where blue denotes college. They can work in concert, they can be complementary to one another, but you can very easily imagine how a comprehensive community-wide wayfinding system would be very easy for us all to understand once we enter the college campus and signs turn from green to blue. And all of a sudden you make sense, you understand where college assets are in comparison to community-wide assets. Now you see I've selected 3 different accent colors. That is the Hillsdale blue as one of the accent colors, so you can kind of see where in selecting the overall color palette, we still have that opportunity to complement and work together well. I also picked kind of an orange gold color that kind of denotes energy and sometimes is derived from kind of a human element. And then I actually created or selected it's a very, very warm gray tone. So it just allows us some opportunities to grow and expand, and you'll see that as we continue to move forward. Now, next I wanted to select a stable of typefaces that we could select to pick from. Now, typefaces are very, very interesting tools. There is a big message that I have learned in the way that communities typically approach typeface selection. They think about themselves and decide that they are pretty, so they try to pick a pretty typeface. And therefore they pick a really ornate, scripty typeface, and it's got all these flourishes on it, and it's got all these swirls on it, and, or they decide that they're historic, so they pick papyrus, which looks like it's, you know, from some sort of scroll that was 600 years old. What we want to do is we want to maximize legibility. We want to have a visual sense of individuality, so that simply when you write the word Hillsdale without any graphics whatsoever, you can use that typeface selection to create continuity. And what I did was I identified 3 primary typefaces. The word typeface is actually, I'm not going to tell you the name of it because you would make fun of it, but it has 6 different variations on it with different levels of ornamentation. It's got inlines. One of the big things that I'll show you on the next slide, it really gives us an opportunity to make our name very legible while still having some elements of it that are unique. The secondary typeface is called a slab serif typeface. It's very, very traditional in its nature. It also has a very wide horizontal scaling, so the letters are kind of elongated. And then I did select a script accent typeface, but I wanted to be able to use that to put a human touch on things like taglines and some of those connected elements there. Now, once you look at that typeface from a word type standpoint, this is how Hillsdale is presented. One of the things I really liked about this was I liked the upward slant in the crossbars. It creates a really, really nice visual element. It evokes this idea not only of the topography of the community and the hills that might have inspired its name, but also an upward momentum. Is anybody going to look at that and think, oh my gosh, that's a really great H. It reminds me of upward momentum. No, like, that's not the way it works, but it's all the things that inspired why we made the decision that we did. Now, I do want you to know that in this word type, I went through and I started out by doing custom spacing, and that sounds really complicated, it's not at all. If you see this, the red is what would happen if you had just typed this into the computer, okay? So I went in and I hand spaced each and every letter. And the reason that I did that was I wanted to make sure that even though there are 5 letters on this side and 4 letters on this side, I wanted the center point of the word to fall right there. That way, in all of your compositions, you had a symmetry in your name. So it allows for a lot of composition and ease in that composition when you go through and you put that kind of thought into it. Now, in addition to that, I just wanted to show you this. This is, again, it's a design nerd slide. But I wanted to show you the difference that a typeface like this has with this kind of horizontal scaling. What horizontal scaling means is the relationship to the height to the width of the letters. You're a name with 9 letters in it. That's pretty long for community names. So this is a traditional, what's called Garamond. It's a traditional typeface. And this is taking up the same horizontal space. Look at the height difference that you get in the 2 typeface selections. A taller typeface gives you more legibility and less space. So that's one of the reasons that I made that decision that I did. Does that make sense to everybody? All right, so then from there, I always like to bring together a set of values. And these were some of the things that I felt like I heard over and over again from the community. You're definitely a traditional community. You're a caring community. You love those attributes of being a small town. You are connected to one another. You are educated, and educated is not necessarily, you carry with your community psyche of value for education, and I probably should rephrase it that way. The phrase educated sometimes can be demeaning to some, and I don't mean that at all. You are a community that highly values education at all levels. And then also we talked about you are a safe community. I feel like it's my job as an outside consultant to tell you there are certain things that I hear in every single community that I go to. There are certain illusions that communities maintain of themselves, and they keep telling themselves that they are something, hoping that it's true when it's not really true. I told Mary on Monday, literally every community that I have ever worked in, if I ask the question to them, what is your greatest asset? What is the thing that you are the most proud of? I have never asked that question and not had somebody in the audience answer, it's the people.
And they think that they have landed on the most clever answer to that question that I have ever heard. And little do they know that I hear it every week. Realizing that your people and the relationship between those people is an asset is one of the first realizations as you become introspective as a place. The thing that is actually unique about Hillsdale is you still possess a lot of the attributes of small town life that other places have long since lost. When you say that you're the kind of place where everybody knows each other, and when there is a tragedy, the community rallies, that is actually still the truth. I'm pretty sure that if I lived here for 6 months, I would be able to start going into these stores and buying things on credit. And just saying, you know what, I left my wallet at home, I'll come back and tomorrow and take care of it. And the person in the store would say, no problem, take your time. That doesn't actually exist in other places. My small town that I live in right now, we've got about 14,000. We would like to think that we're like that, and we're not. You know, it's like the answer is to them, well, I've got Square, or I'll just hold it behind the counter and I'll give it to you when you come back and pay for it. It's like, that's not small town. That's not trusting and caring. You know, you actually have both good public schools and good private schools. You have a multitude of choices. Somebody said to me yesterday, you know, we don't really necessarily offer a whole lot of entertainment. Except for we're a town of 8,000, we still got a roller skating rink and a bowling alley and a movie theater. That's a pretty broad spectrum of entertainment for a lot of communities. We don't have a roller skating rink. We just lost ours because they couldn't make it. You know, so it's interesting to see that you really do have a very, very rich life. Now, from the graphic standpoint, as I start to dig into the graphics, this is where you start to hit some real challenges, some sticky wickets, as my mom would say. So Hillsdale College has got the most, and I want to be very deliberate about how I phrase this, they have the most established and spread, most invested in brand in the community. Their look and feel and message and tone goes the farthest and is probably managed with the keenest eyes. Now, they have several different elements in their system that make it difficult to figure out how to walk around. They have the cupola logo. They actually have two versions of that logo. One with Hillsdale College in all caps, and one with Hillsdale in what we call title style. So that creates a little bit of a challenge. It's almost like they own both of them. And it's like, oh, that's why the need for a unique typeface was further, reinforced earlier. They have a block H, and a block H always reads as collegiate. So you have to be very, very deliberate anytime you want to create any of your own monograms like this, that it doesn't read as overly collegiate. And then also they have all their athletic logos. Then from there, if we move down, we also have the county. One of the most visible and impactful pieces of architecture in your historic downtown is representative not of the city, but of the county government and of the county as a whole. I did a lot of research, and it was kind of interesting. If you actually see, this right here is a historic map of Hillsdale, and this typeface was the one that actually inspired the typeface selection that I picked. The only difference is it has completely horizontal crossbars instead of the upward, but you can see this historic correlation. I love this. This is kind of cool, most popular fair on earth. I don't know where that came from, but I like that kind of guts. So let's say that's what we are. You know, this is another thing that's kind of interesting. The county logo, in the realm of county logos, this is a good county logo because most county logos are horrible. Just like they're real bad. But what they have done here is they've done a composite of several different literal images. And because that is the way that the county has decided to represent themselves, it makes it difficult for us to do any kind of composite as well, because it would read as too much of the same thing. If we were to create a composite, we probably would want to look at possibly including both the cupola of the campus and the cupola of the downtown, because once you do a composite, you can have more than one element. You can't say, oh, we're putting it all in that. But all that to say, you know, one of the big things from a city standpoint that really stuck out to me was this building. This building sticks out in several different ways to me. First of all, even though it's circular in nature, inside from satellite imagery, it's you know, a pentagon or is star shaped, which is kind of cool. You don't see that very often. It is in a place of particular prominence in its position in downtown. And there also are plans for the way that people can relate to this building to be significantly enhanced in the future. So that this building symbolizes not just the services of the city, but the grounds that surround it could one day represent the true gathering spot and heart of the city. And that's a pretty cool opportunity. So when you start to pull all those elements together, that leads me to this city brand. Again, this is just a first draft, but this is a simple concept of pulling it all together. So you have this very simple, iconic symbol of the courthouse. You have this tagline
Of City Hall.
City Hall, sorry, yeah. You have this tagline, closer than you imagine. And it's a simple phrase, but it has a duality of meaning. It's both geographically, but also emotionally and community, human connection. I played around with a lot of different phrases. There was one that I had played around with in my head for a while, that it was, it said just far enough to still be close. And it's this interesting concept of part of the reason that you have been able to preserve so much of your quality of life is because it's been a little too difficult for your community to become complacent. You have to be self-sufficient. You have to be self-focused. If you literally had a big community 5 minutes next door that had all the big box stores, it would be very, very easy for everybody just to leave. But your geographic location has fueled a lot of that preservation. Now, if we go in and jump into this little, like one of the first things, and again, this is just the city logo, so this is from the government standpoint. One of the things that I wanted to do with this is I wanted to create something that, because of the overall composition, this doesn't necessarily need to be seen as a replacement for the seal, but instead a new tool in addition to the seal. When we think back to what seals are for, seals are intended to have very long lifespans, and they're intended to be formal representations of the actions of government. Their origin goes back to heraldry and family crests and wax seals, closing documents, and so being able to preserve something like that, and I will say, as we go through this process, one of the things that we'll probably discuss is, what do we want to do with it? Do we want to keep that seal the way that it is and have a use of this where we tie it to the word type for more formalized versions? Do we want to slightly adapt that seal, but intend to adapt it for a much longer lifespan, make sure the graphics are appropriate for that kind of use? One of the things that I will say about the current seal, it is very attractive, but it is most attractive in 4 colors. And when it's no longer in 4 colors, some of the impact of the graphics start to fall out a little. The gold foil stamping on the pocket folders that you have, the trees, some of those details start to kind of fall out a little. So we might decide that we want to tweak that a little for longevity's sake. So don't be concerned that that has to die for this to exist. They can actually work in the same system. Now, in addition, one of the things that I like about this, I like running through this and making sure, does it work in one color? Does it work in black and white? Does it work in this simplified version? This actually is, because of the simplicity of it, it also will scale very, very well. So you can shrink this thing down really, really small and put it on forms, and it will still read well. Now, in addition to that, we also want to have a logo that is very connected to this, but creates a little bit of separation between the actions of the city government, because believe it or not, since you tax people, they don't always love you. So you've got to have a little bit of separation between the representation of the city government and the community as a whole. So what I did here was just a very simple adaptation. I put the word type on a rise. I brought in the word historic, which you all have been using a lot in that accent typeface. And this simply creates a standardized word type that you could use to talk about the community. And this is the type of logo that the businesses in your community can tap into. And they could use freely and openly. They can make products with this. They can include this on advertisements, say proudly located in historic Hillsdale. Very simple tool to use, but you also create just enough of a gap so that if a downtown merchant sells historic Hillsdale products, it doesn't end up having that person look like they're now a city staff member. So you have just the appropriate level of distinction there. Now, to me though, where it starts to get fun is when we start to look at expansion. And I call this city departments, but what this really is it's a different assets and amenities throughout the community that could tap in to this overall look and feel. So we kick off with the manufacturing and technology part. So again, using similar colors, using some of the typefaces out of the system, but also having the freedom and wherewithal to be able to go through and create a look and feel that is going to be appropriate in that sales channel. Your manufacturing, your tech industry, you want to look sophisticated and cool so that the businesses who choose to locate there feel sophisticated and cool. So you want to make sure that your identity matches up with your overall goals. Hillsdale Municipal Airport. So again, simply looking to that iconic sign, and now all of a sudden, what was just a sign, we take that arrow off the sign and we turn it into the logo for the airport. I have no, well, so, your community library, being able to adopt the same word type, be able to expand through Parks and Rec, just being able to do fun things that are connected, but also are able to kind of get credit for the effort so people know who's responsible for what. The EDC, again, having something that looks like it would exist in an economic development arena. It can be more contemporary. This is not about forcing everyone to look exactly alike. It's allowing them to wear the right outfit for the right party, but preserve the same personality. Historical Society. And again, this one, I will say, I've done enough work with historical societies to know that this recommendation would probably start an extremely long conversation, numerous fights, possibly fisticuffs, battles, bloody noses, but I wanted to include this organization in the presentation today, because I want to say one of the things that I do in every community that I visit is
visit the Historical Society's website. And the Historical Society website in Hillsdale is hands down one of the top 5 that I have ever seen, and might be the best that I have ever seen.
Oh, I would tell them that.
The depth of information, the way in which it is presented, in manageable chunks, where people with short attention span are motivated to stay in there. I can tell you exactly what a typical historical society website looks like. It is one page, it is 670 feet long, and it has lots of black and white pictures of old people, and like there's no way to follow all the stuff. So their mindset is the only people that are interested in this are people who want to read a novel. Where the website here, everything about the way that it is designed and organized is actually created to pull people in. Like, I found myself wondering what the makeup of this organization looked like based off of the content on their website. And some of the stuff that I learned about this community, you know, when I sit there and I read about things like the way that this community courted Hillsdale College, and that Hillsdale College had considered locating in Coldwater, and Coldwater had raised $10,000 to court them, and Hillsdale did what they needed to do to beat that offer. You know, I read about the 4 oarsmen of Hillsdale and how these guys who just randomly decided that they wanted to start rowing a boat end up going and practicing for a couple of months and winning the top title in the country, not 1 year, not 2 years, but 4 years in a row, and then go to London, and the only reason they don't win first place there is they break a seat, and they still get second place. You know, I mean, it's very, very, they do a great job, so please pass that on. Very excited about that.
So may I just mention who does that?
Yeah.
I mean, just so anyone in this room knows. So Joanne Miller is very involved in that. Carol Lackey. I mean, we have an incredibly dedicated historical society, first of all, that just put in the hours to make it right. But they also hired a Hillsdale College grad named Miss Sturek. What's her first name? Okay, so I'm having a mental blank here, but Renee Miss Sturek designed that website, I believe.
Gotcha.
But I think Joanne Miller keeps it up.
Okay. Now, with BPU, I will actually tell you that there are a couple things that I would urge you all to think about from a BPU standpoint. Because obviously, what does BPU stand for? BPU stands for Board Public Utilities. But the Board of Public Utilities is the body that runs the utility, not the utility. Exactly. You know what I mean? Like there's a certain semantics there. I know that there's a little bit of transition taking place right now with BPU, and as that transition takes place, it really is up to you all to decide how you want that positioned moving forward. This is a very simple recommendation on how BPU might just get a logo refresh. Believe it or not, just because you provide power and water through the utility, you don't have to figure out how to have a water faucet and light sockets and everything in your logo. But I would also say, and I'm only sharing this because with this smaller group, I think it sometimes helps to kind of share what was going through my mind. I'm not necessarily sure, and I think a lot of it comes into the identity once you get into billing. You know, it's like, who do you get the bill from? Because that bill many times is the primary relationship between the provider and the customer. So as you go through that, I don't know a lot of the details or anything like that, but if there is a situation where you want to think
or rethink that relationship between the customer and the provider, there's some other things you might think about. I mean, because again, that BPU is that board. So I think you've got a little latitude. I shared with somebody earlier today, I live in a community where our city also runs our power and our water. And when I get my power bill, it just has the city logo on it. There isn't like a separate utility identity, even though there is a utility board that sets rates and decides, all the kind of way that the utility is run as a department of the city. When I get that bill, I get a city logo on it. So there's a lot for you all to consider, and I'm more than willing to either help you walk down that road, answer any questions you might have, or just simply create the tools to help aid in whatever decision. I think that whenever you run that utility, you've got a lot of potential on your side, and you can provide a lot of additional services to your community, but you also open up the door for some additional scrutiny. So you just want to make sure that you're protected.
What about Lansing? They have BWL.
Right.
So it's Board Water and Light.
Right.
So ours is Board of Public Utilities.
Yeah.
I don't see anything wrong with it.
Okay.
It's an easy identifier. We have a very good BPU.
Good.
I mean, ask anybody, any customer around here.
Yeah.
There's no complaints.
Yeah.
And in fact, I was the one he had asked this to earlier today. And I think where some of his comments came from is I described the council's effort to kind of bring the city more together as opposed to separate entities.
Well, we have done that through the finance, because now
Right.
we are
Right.
seeing the finance, the council is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Instead of the way it used to be.
Right.
We're more aware of what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and that's again, like I'm not suggesting a name change. That's why what I'm showing was BPU. But it was one of those things where I didn't get to dig in. If people they trust it and they like it, you don't change it. That'd be change for change's sake, and that's never good. So thank you for weighing in on it. Now, from that, now you can start to see with a lot of these, you start to see a system emerging, and you're starting to see the ability for these individual groups to go through and still own and control their identity, but also show a way that they're working together and that they are connected in the community. And I've got some other things that we've worked on, but I don't want to walk too far down any of those roads. The Chamber of Commerce is a great example. They have a pre-established logo and identity, but they also have some initiatives that they're working on that have the opportunity to be connected throughout this whole effort. And there's some very, very easy ways, both from an organizational identity as well from those initiatives, that connection could be shared, but it would be premature to go into that too far. But with that, I would love to open it up to you all for thoughts, initial thoughts of the path that I'm walking down. Does it seem to make sense? After you start to see the extension and start to see the possibilities of it, does it start to feel like, I could see where that could come to represent our community? What are your thoughts?
I think the 6 key traits that you focused on, I think those definitely are Hillsdale.
Good.
I think, just for this group, I purposefully stayed away from Ben because I wanted him to do what he does without very little influence from me or from our city perspective. So I'm pleased that he got around and just talked to random organizations, random people, and he keyed in on a number of things that really, I think, in the couple of meetings that I attended on Monday was kind of the general themes that everyone was talking about the home,
I personally love it.
Awesome.
And, you know, I think about this stuff a lot.
Right.
So I love the tagline, closer than you imagine. I mean, I don't know what anyone else's feeling about it is, but I think you did a great job of capturing, with that word closer, a lot of those attributes that was very strongly agreed upon in every group. I was in every single group on Monday. And, but from an economic development point of view, like we're sending the message, hey, we're really close. Like you don't know where we are yet. It seems like we're pretty far. We're not on a highway, but we're closer than you imagine. So I love the word imagine in there because, you know, I think going forward, we're going to have to really imagine Hillsdale differently. Like even if we could attract a big manufacturer, they don't create a lot of jobs anymore, you know? So we need to imagine a different kind of company that does create jobs, you know, tech jobs. And this whole idea that we came up with of being connected by the fiber and being able to be a telecommuter in Hillsdale. So that really works for me in all of those regards. And I love the little change to the logo for the manufacturing and technology part, so.
I'm not thrilled with that.
No.
I work out there.
Yeah.
I'm not thrilled with that.
Okay.
I'd rather just keep it the basic Hillsdale. If you're gonna do these signs, I like that there's not, Hillsdale College is not on there. We're getting a lot of grief about Hillsdale College. I like the idea of you changing the colors. I think blue and white should basically signify Hillsdale College, like you said. But I think we're catching a lot of flack about the sign being out there. It says Welcome to Hillsdale, or Historic Hillsdale, Home of Hillsdale College.
Right.
We've caught a lot of flack about it.
Yeah. And I will say, I've heard a little bit about that, and I can very easily and comfortably weigh in on that from kind of the professional branding standpoint. You as a community, you are home of Hillsdale College, and you will always be that. That is an attribute, and that is what I call a position statement for you. But let's think about how this went down. You had a gateway sign, and it said home of Hillsdale College. It was replaced by a gateway sign that said it's the people. And for years, people saw it's the people, it's the people, it's the people. Then the people went down and were replaced by a branded sign in the colors of Hillsdale College that said home of Hillsdale College with the Hillsdale College logo on the bottom. And I would assume, my gut tells me that the thing that is truly offensive to the locals is not that the sign says home of Hillsdale College, as much as the sign doesn't say anything about the value of the people. Hillsdale College has replaced the value of the people in their mind. I think that if the sign had been designed and maintained the same tagline and then at the bottom said home of Hillsdale College, there probably would have been a dramatically different response to it. It's the fact that they knew what was there and saw what it was replaced by and felt like the community was projecting a change in what they valued. And nobody likes to be a part of a community where they feel like they're not a valued part of that community. So that's why, as I was going through, I wanted to make sure that any kind of messaging that I presented offered both competitive advantages as well as a springboard for us to talk about the value of the people, the qualities that they cherish, and the relationships that they have. But I'm not surprised that this community would be disappointed in a sign that went up and said home of Hillsdale College when the one before it says the people. Like I completely understand how that happens. I can also understand how a council who saw a sign that was old and was starting to no longer look good have the opportunity to replace that with something that was new and professional and nice. I can see where folks wouldn't have forecasted the response would be like this. I've seen some way weirder things happen. So, and yes.
From a branding standpoint, the community perceives that we are now relinquished. That now the brand of the city is really going to be Hillsdale College. So where does that leave the local businesses, schools, employers? You know, that diminishes, and that almost discourages other people to come and relocate here.
The
So
saying
to
is
avoid the
they're on the
focus.
hill. They're on the hill looking down on us. That's the feeling of the people. And it's sad because Hillsdale College does provide a lot of valuable things. But you're getting the perception of all the properties are taken down, making vacant lots, eventually we put homes up there. And then all we're hearing is these houses are coming off the tax roll, we're losing more tax base money. That's what we constantly hear.
Uplifting, unifying from an outsider standpoint, you say these people are working collectively hand in hand, that this is a unified city. And I'm willing to work with someone who's collective and unified and has a brand that's established rather than the disarray and separation from the outsider standpoint.
Well, I do like the city of Hillsdale closer than you imagine. I do like that. I think that stands out. It talks about the city of Hillsdale. I mean, the city of the whole.
Right.
Not just the city, but also the college. But it does. It says your imagination.
Why is there an exclamation point?
It's exciting. It's basically
Well,
what it's saying.
see,
Excitement. It's better to say it's the people. After a
no,
while,
no,
they
I
did
mean,
wear
I'm
out.
just saying that the exclamation point. In other words, it seems to me that's manufacturing excitement.
You're not excited about
Okay, so
yourself, how do you expect
I'm
others
the
to be
one,
excited for you?
obviously, I'm the one who typed it. So I'm the one that put the exclamation point. And I'll tell you why I put it, but I'll also tell you why I'm not going to argue for it if it's a problem. The reason why I put it was because I was trying to capture part of the excitement that I had at how truly dynamic the community was once I made the effort to discover and dig deeper. So I wanted to add an extra element that made it more than just a geographic statement. And that duality of meaning, I wanted to make sure that that phrase had some sort of indicator that it was more than just a geography. Now again, like I said, it would be a rare day where I would go to a fight for an exclamation. So, if you all feel like an exclamation point is inappropriate there, I don't think that it would hurt anything to remove it. Again, part of what I'm able to do, I spend every week in a different place. So the stuff that rises to the top to me, it is actually unique because it's different from what I'm used to. And I hope that with the things that I've shared with you and showed you today, I really like this community, and I have been very pleasantly surprised with some of the things that I've discovered. And really, that's the best way I can capture why it's got an exclamation point. If you guys decide from a strategic standpoint it makes it a little hokey or a little cheesy or possibly even reads as disingenuous, then we'll pull it in a heartbeat.
I think it projects, at times I'd say from the county standpoint, we don't advocate and campaign for ourselves. So this shows positivity. It would be different if we had it under the BPU or the manufacturing. That's not an appropriate place. But this is, if you aren't excited about yourself, no one's going to be excited to come to Hillsdale.
Right.
I think particularly I like the typeset, and I think, like you had mentioned, that whole thing of the upward and just progressive, it just stands out. And I definitely like the whole thing, the greens, and it has this unity. I think it just comes together in each and every part.
Great.
I like the city hall being incorporated in that. I think it's a historic thing.
Well, and the other thing that it does, and this is kind of an interesting, it's definitely not a primary goal of this, but from an architectural standpoint, many times we're somewhat simplistic in how we give credit and hierarchy. So, you know, the cupola is tall. The cupola on campus is tall. The cupola for the courthouse is tall. So if you're going to see architecture from this community, the architecture you are most likely to be exposed to, neither one have that direct connection to the city itself. So being able to incorporate that simple kind of prominence of this structure in the life of the community, it was just kind of it was an easy solution to the fact that the other two major entities were already promoting the visual representation of their place as well.
I love it because we do have a fantastic city hall. I mean, I don't know if you guys ever do this. Again, I live this. So every town I go in that I can find the city hall, I really notice it. So many towns have either abandoned their historic city hall, or they never had one, or they, for some reason, moved to a new building and it's some little kind of unremarkable newer building that was built in the 60s. And yes, it's very convenient for their police department because they have lots of parking. You know, I mean, if you go to, oh gosh, maybe Tecumseh even, I'm trying to think, somewhere near like Tecumseh or Chelsea or somewhere. I was so unimpressed with their city hall. They had a big meeting about rental rehab in their city hall. And it was so, like all of Tecumseh, if it was Tecumseh, wherever it was somewhere between here and like Ann Arbor, has a very beautiful historic downtown like we have, and then you drive into this kind of modern building on the outskirts.
And it's small, and it's
Yeah.
it's not big enough for what they require, and we tried adding on to it half a dozen times.
Oh, okay.
It's an awful building, it's an awful location.
And even, so Plymouth, Michigan is a town that is closer to the Detroit area, and it's on your way to the airport almost. So, and it is a very upscale version of Hillsdale. So it has a very traditional downtown and nice shopping district, and their median family income is probably $75,000 a year. You know, I mean, they really have those auto execs, you know, and
They have automotive manufacturing up there too.
right. But they have not preserved their post office. Their post office in their downtown is kind of sitting there being maybe redeveloped. I think it wasn't occupied. I mean, they had a big, beautiful old post office like we have, but it wasn't the post office.
I was convinced for 2 days that you all had turned the bathroom across the hall into somebody's office. Because it had a lock on it, it said toilet on the door, but then it was always locked, and then if it wasn't, like, the lights would be off sometimes, and maybe the person was at lunch, and like I was just convinced that there was somebody who, I wanted to find who was it that had.
You hadn't seen.
Well, because I had asked Mary, well, where's the bathroom? And she says on the first floor. So I'm like, oh my gosh, somebody has the toilet office. That's pretty awesome. And then of course I figured it must be the planning director, because you know that makes perfect sense.
Because he spent so much time there.
Yeah, codes enforcement.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts? Any other comments? Anything that is glaringly missing, or stuff that, you know, again, with comments like the manufacturing and technology part, please understand that. The big thing that I really like to do is this, let's just show you options and show you talk about things where it's like, if you want to do these kind of things, you can still have a level of latitude and still be in a comprehensive system. Every single thing is exactly like them. And I felt like since a thought or network on that main of the manufacturing they might just interested in something like that, possibly even marketing things that we do. Might not its way to the physical realm as much as the marketing realm to sell the properties that are available. You know, again, just options and availability.
Well, the complaint I have about the signage out of their manufacturing park, with a horrible location, where you put it. If you're coming from Jonesville, you might see it, and you out there, but if you're going out of town, you don't see it. I mean, it took me a couple days, and I finally one day I was stopped at light, and I kind of turned and
Well, the funny thing about where it's located is the actual perfect place for a sign to the park is where there is already a sign that is wide enough. What, did you tell me it was a chiropractor?
Yeah,
or
and that's
something?
so interesting. I guess in our defense, I want to explain this. So we have been working since I came, so like 3 or 4 years, on getting a sign up. That was one of the first things they said to do. So that our manufacturing park, our industrial park, which by the way, the name change happened kind of before I came, but anyway, that's neither here nor there, is along M99. And there are so many rules about putting up signs on M99. We were very constrained. So you cannot put up a sign on M99 unless you own the property adjacent to M99. So you're a billboard, and then you have to comply with federal billboard legislation, and they're not giving out any more billboard permits. So the fact that our manufacturing park does not actually border M99 basically prohibited us from putting a sign up. And the only, other than, so when I first came in the door, I suggested that spot that you saw the sign, and it's the chiropractor's office that is no longer a chiropractor's office, and like across the street from where the sign is now. Got permission, knocked on their door, they said, sure, you can, and then found out, no, we can't put a sign up there because we don't own that property. And,
It's weird.
well,
That rule is not weird, except for the fact that typically when you hear rules like that, those rules are the rules, but then they don't apply to municipalities. It's like they apply to businesses and they apply to.
trust me.
Yeah, no doubt. It's
Nobody tried harder to get around that rule.
No doubt. Okay, that's interesting.
And the reason it is where it is, which we finally wedged ourselves into their rule system, is because the city does own that property.
Right, we lease it to the Republic.
Right. So that's why we got to put a sign there, and we realized it's not the best place.
Right.
It's not.
But we don't have another place.
But it's
Like,
either that or no sign.
yeah. I mean,
Sometimes
It's weird.
I'm just telling you, it's bad location.
well, and I'm telling you why it happened there.
Yeah.
We tried every other possible location, even to the point of
I'm
trying
just glad that y'all are nice people, because me, if I had been there, I would have exercised the philosophy of being really good at saying I'm sorry, and I'm just like, I sit there and I think to myself, who in the world is actually, like, I understand that they have rules, but I've never met the person who drives down the road and determines whether a sign is supposed to be there or not. Do you know them? Have you met them? I haven't. Like, I'm sticking on it.
No, they won't come to town because we tried to get them here for one of the discussions on the entry sign.
Oh,
And they would not,
Oh, man.
they would not show up.
I have heard, I've not done a lot with MDOT, I've done a lot with DOTs in other states, and, I mean, we have been guilty of quite a few circumstances where guerrilla tactics have been used, but, yeah, it is interesting because you would think that common sense on certain topics would prevail.
Boy, I'm telling you, I mean, I've been working on this for 4
Yeah.
solid years. And I've talked to the people at the American Federal Credit, that corner, and then the stadium roller rink, that corner is much more visible, better location.
Right.
That's the way you want people to go in the industrial
Right,
park. By the rules.
right. Tried it.
Okay, yeah.
Can't
That's the
put the sign there,
Interesting.
What
legally.
about behind American, well, it's not a great place.
Where?
Behind American Federal Credit Union,
Yeah.
that was bought
Oh,
by.
like on that road up going up
That was
there.
bought by Center for Family
Okay,
Health.
here is the rule. I tried that. I
Okay.
tried like up on by the hill, by the,
Yeah, it can be within.
The bowling-
view of them.
if you can see it from M99 and you do not, and that is not the industrial park, you can't put a sign for the industrial park there. It is considered a billboard. And I mean, I'm telling you, we have spent hours trying to get around this problem.
I wonder if there's a stipulation that allows for community wayfinding signage. So not,
Yes.
so if you
But
had
even
it,
that is very restrictive, and
Right.
actually, that's the only reason we
Yeah.
got that sign as it is.
Yeah.
Is because originally, they weren't going to let us put that one up even after I had, tacit approval.
yeah,
And then I said, okay, I said, you gave me approval originally, now you're saying I can't, I wanna talk to your supervisor. And the supervisor came back and said, okay, we'll list it as wayfinding and let you do it that way.
it is state highway, in my eyes.
Yep.
Well, so, and I don't wanna dwell on it too long, but do you all know why that policy exists?
Lady Bird Johnson.
Would actually kind of, but Lady Bird kind of set the mantra, but the technicality of it is the Manual for Uniform Traffic Control Devices, which was published by the U.S. Department of Transportation. It was published in 2009, and states were given until 2011 to either adopt the MUTCD as published or to adopt state authorized variances. But what that did is that set and kind of cemented the signage frameworks that would dictate federal government standards. And the MUTCD is the standard that the US DOT uses for funding of their roads. And they have passed down the mandate that if states spend dollars, federal dollars, on state roads that are non-conforming to the MUTCD, then they stand at risk to lose that funding, and even worse, they stand at risk to retroactively have the funding withdrawn, and therefore the state DOT owing a debt to the federal government. So most state DOTs have had to become extremely rigid, even if they didn't want to be rigid, because they're scared to death. You can imagine that a single individual who signs off on a sign and then all of a sudden their authorization causes and triggers a withdrawal of funding. I mean, a sign is not worth your job. And I think that is the fear factor that exists in most of the DOTs now. So I don't like it, and I wish it wasn't that way, but I always do my best to not get too angry at DOT, because I try to at least angle, is this why we're doing this? Like, are we scared we're gonna lose our federal funding? And like, nobody wants to risk that. And I have found that if I kind of start dialogue that way with them, a lot of times I can make my way to what the actual answer is. And if that's not the actual answer, then you've got some latitude to be able to do it. But it's a pain. It's mind-numbing.
Yeah, well, the only way we can, the only way we can move that sign is across the street to the area that the Lakewood Motors used to be. Two brothers own that land. Barry Hill went to high school with them. We've been trying to get them to sell us a little portion of the corner, because then we would own or be able to long-term lease a piece of property. We'd have to own it. We'd own a little triangle big enough to put the sign in. We have tried that. They have been very difficult to get a hold of, to talk. They won't call us back. I mean, it's like we have literally tried everything. So if we ever get a piece of that property, we can move that sign across the street.
Which is, I mean, it's so silly, because even if you, so you're gonna make us go and spend taxpayer dollars to acquire property. That property is still not the industrial park.
Yeah, it was actually platted in the original industrial park, so it's
To go
like,
to M99?
uh-huh, so it's okay. I mean,
Okay.
but it took a long time to even figure that out, because it's zoned commercial.
Oh, man.
It's not zoned industrial.
I'll tell you. Well,
Welcome to
anything
our
else?
world.
I don't wanna take all day from you all. Any other comments?
Are you gonna leave, or get us a copy of this so we can have it to share?
Absolutely. What I've done is I recorded our conversation today, and I will be able to export that and put it as a private video on YouTube. And then that way, one of the big things, I think at this point in the game, I want to make sure from this internal group that I'm kind of walking down the right road, and then I'd like to be able to use this framework for our January visit to be able to work with those other community and regional partners and being able to get them some tools as well. So I know that we want to keep this somewhat close at hand, because even though I was able to put a lot of things together, it's still very, very cursory, and we want the involvement and participation of partner organizations in the community, because, I mean, both from a success on implementation standpoint, and also the simple fact that the more people who are excited about it and could share in launching it, the more successful it will be across the board. But yes, I can share a PDF that I would love for us to keep very much internal, just for us to be able to dig into the details and make any refinements and send any revisions back through Mary to me, and then also that video that we recorded, so that if there was anything that you want to go back and listen, and why did he say that he did this, then it'll be documented.
So I want to talk to you, and I don't necessarily need everyone else to be in the room.